Back with Alden Chodash of AldenBoxing.com. Alden, we got a lot of catching up to do. First off, it seems like the Floyd-Pacquiao fight is history, at least for now. First of all, what do you think of Floyd's demands that more stringent blood testing of Pacquiao, insinuating that Pacquiao's been cheating?
Well, it's obvious what the public, or the majority of the public, especially casual boxing fans, are going to take out of this. This is a guy that has always had problems fighting the most dangerous and most threatening fighters that come towards his path. Pacquiao is just the latest. He's pulled out of fights with Margarito. He's never been able to materialize fights with the likes of a Shane Mosley. So there's going to be a lot of negative opinions as of the reason why this fight didn't take place. However, Pacquiao is just as much to blame as Mayweather is. Mayweather's camp, for some reason, for the first time in his career, they're demanding a fighter. They're demanding such strict regulations for this drug testing, probably because they're maybe in a state of disbelief that Pacquiao is able to prove them wrong repeatedly in his path to greatness in fights with Miguel Cotto, Oscar De La Hoya, both guys that Roger Mayweather at least thought Oscar De La Hoya would emerge, or Floyd Mayweather Sr. They probably are in disbelief with Pacquiao's success, maybe feel a bit threatened. However, Pacquiao, when you look at him, and I was reading a blog from Oscar De La Hoya, this is a guy that has tattoos all over his body. This is a guy that is not afraid of a little bit of blood at all, by no means. I mean, if he's feeling threatened by the demands of such high-class blood testing companies such as the USADA, why is his body all tattooed by companies that aren't even close to the standing of a USADA? What really is going on, or at least what Bob Arum is claiming, is that it's ludicrous that the USADA is demanding such a high quantity of blood testing towards Manny Pacquiao. I mean, if he's afraid of that, maybe there is something that he's hiding. Maybe he is using such performance-enhancing drugs. And some might point out that Manny Pacquiao, if he was using performance-enhancing drugs, they would find that after the fight. But did they find them in Shane Mosley, which he later admitted to?
Right, that's true. Okay, so there's a lot to, worry about.
If Pacquiao would comply more to what Mayweather's asking, and with just the sole purpose of letting one of the biggest fights of this decade actually come to reality, this fight would be much easier. So I think in this case, it's a little bit more on Pacquiao's behalf, or his camp's behalf, of why this fight might not be happening.
But clearly Floyd has a lot more to lose than Pacquiao. Floyd, who is he going to fight and make that kind of money?
He has the reputation. That's his problem right now. When they see a huge fight involving Floyd Mayweather not happening, they'll think back, deja vu. He didn't end up fighting Shane Mosley. He didn't end up fighting Antonio Margarito. Both fights that would be huge, but not this huge, which makes it just as much bigger of a letdown. Does
it make sense for Floyd to just wait and see how Mosley Berto ends up, and then take on the winner there? And
no, this fight is so highly anticipated that throwing a guy like Paul Malignaggi would be despicable. That would push Floyd's legacy so much if they would let a fighter of the status of a Paul Malignaggi take his place to fight Manny Pacquiao, and just really upset the flow of boxing, which is already hurting as a sport,
right,
because of situations like this. And Paul Malignaggi would not make it better. In fact, he would make it worse.
Right. But Floyd, obviously, who does want to lose? But in this stage of his career, Floyd does not want to lose. And why would he want, if he thinks that Pacquiao's cheating, why would he put his unbeaten record up against something like that? That's why
he's pushing so hard for these drug tests, I believe. And
so you do side with Floyd, or you're knocking both camps?
I believe Manny Pacquiao. Basically, I believe for Manny Pacquiao's situation that he should just agree with what Floyd Mayweather is demanding, just to make this fight happen, if there is nothing to hide. But Floyd Mayweather is asking a lot. He is demanding for unconventional means of blood testing, unusual to any other huge event. And Pacquiao's camp might just be not accustomed to this kind of demands, and just in an awkward situation.
Okay, so in other words, bottom line, you don't want to see Manny fight Yuri Foreman.
I don't want to see these guys fight anyone else.
But it's for the junior middle championship.
I think it would be a letdown to many people, including me, if both fighters, their next fights, weren't against each other. That's how juicy this fight is right now.
Right, but it could get juicier.
I don't think so. I think if they try to make it become juicier, I think that would tarnish Mayweather especially, maybe even Pacquiao.
I mean, you think that now is when they should strike while the fire is hot, and if they let it go any further,
it would be a letdown. Especially Paul Malignaggi, that'd be.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Well, especially that Manny and Floyd, they're household names pretty much. If you let that slip away from the casual fan, it's hard to get them back, no?
Of course.
Okay, let's move on. Ricky Hatton supposedly coming back, and he's eyeing Juan Manuel Marquez. What do you think?
It's a pretty good fight. It just depends on how much Hatton has left. He's been knocked out by Manny Pacquiao in his last fight. It doesn't look that bad in comparison to how good Manny Pacquiao looked against Miguel Cotto, but what does look bad is that Ricky Hatton's been knocked out 2 times devastatingly in his last 4 fights. Juan Manuel Marquez, not the puncher of a Manny Pacquiao, not nearly the puncher of a Manny Pacquiao, and probably not even of a bigger Floyd Mayweather, but he is a good technical fighter, and I mean, he moved up in weight to fight Floyd Mayweather, got beaten, but unfortunately the public took that as he's past his prime rather than he moved up in weight too much against a fighter that was too good, which was a fight that really should have never happened in my mind. So, I mean, that really hurt his career standing and his legacy among the fans, I believe, which probably shouldn't have happened because he was considered one of the best fighters pound for pound, number 2 in fact, before the fight with Mayweather.
But if he gives Ricky Hatton a boxing lesson, I mean, what does that do to his career?
It should remind people that he still is one of the best in the world, which I think he is. I mean, Mayweather deservedly should be 1 or 2 on the pound for pound list, but Juan Manuel Marquez probably would have been 3 if it wasn't for the fight with Mayweather. If Mayweather would have just stepped up and actually fight a guy like Pacquiao or Shane Mosley in his comeback fight rather than just waste everyone's time with Juan Manuel Marquez.
Okay, what do you think of Thomas Adamek versus Chris Arreola that's being spoken about for the heavyweight division?
That's a good fight. I really would love to see Adamek fight more heavyweights because he's a big puncher. He's a world-class puncher. He can knock out heavyweights. And just fighting in a cruiserweight will just leave him in the shadows of guys that he could knock out. One of those guys is Chris Arreola. Chris Arreola is, I believe he's always overrated, and then Vitaly Klitschko exposed him, and Brad Minto basically put him forth as just a bum in the heavyweight division. That's what I believe. I don't think he's a very good fighter at all, and I think he's an easy target for Adamek to look good against when he moves up to heavyweight. But
you got to admit, Arreola makes fights interesting, at least, with all the punches and all the pounding he takes. No?
Maybe with the pounding he takes, but...
Okay, quickly moving on. Shane Mosley, Andre Berto, who's going to win that fight?
I think Shane Mosley has the advantage, basically because of experience against Andre Berto. Andre Berto's a really good fighter. He just... the best fighters he's faced aren't quite up to par with Shane Mosley, aren't even close. I think they pushed him a little bit too slow up the ladder, and now they're pushing him a little bit too fast.
Why is too slow no good for him?
I mean, do you think he's developed into the fighter that can beat a Shane Mosley? I haven't heard too many experts say that he can beat Shane Mosley.
Well, we were ringside against when he fought Juan Arango, and he looked horrible in that fight. But before that, he fought a quality fighter like Louis Collazo, and he looked pretty good. He
almost got beat in that fight.
Collazo.
A lot of people agree that he got beat in that fight. Collazo barely won any rounds against Shane Mosley years ago. Shane Mosley looks like he's peaked. Shane Mosley has really, in the last few years of his career, has had a roller coaster type career. He's had some off performances, most notably against Ricardo Mayorga, or losses against Miguel Cotto, and then he's shocked everyone and looked amazing against Antonio Margarito. So it's really hard to expect what's going to come from Shane Mosley. Like an off performance from Shane Mosley could result in a loss to Andre Berto. Andre Berto